Greetings, Earthlings. I am now a weirdo with black gloves, but today we are looking at and reviewing the Hamilton Khaki Automatic 38mm. This is the automatic version as opposed to the Khaki Mechanical, which is just a hand wind. This is going to be the automatic version. This retails for around $625 or 620 Swiss francs if you buy at retail. Let's just dive right into it, and first up, this weighs in at 125 grams on the bracelet, sized up for a 7-inch wrist. The case size is going to be 38 millimeters. The thickness of this is only 11¼ millimeters. The lug to lug on this thing, from lug tip to lug tip, is going to be 47.25 millimeters. The lug width, the size of the straps and bracelets that will fit on it, is 20 millimeters. If you look at the sides, and we will have a macro shot here, there are no drilled lugs on this thing, so you will not have that ease of removing of the strap or the bracelet. The water resistance on this thing comes in at 100 meters or 330 feet. The crystal on this is going to be a sapphire crystal, and it is slightly domed, ever so slightly. It is not a flat crystal. The case on this is made out of stainless steel with the crown at 3 o'clock, which unfortunately is not going to be a screw down crown. On the note of the crown, it is a signed crown, so you have the little Hamilton H right there. On the rear of the watch, you have a screw down display case back, so you are able to see the actual movement inside of it, and it is screwed down, so you are getting a little bit extra water resistance there. The bracelet that comes on the watch is made out of stainless steel, and if we look at the drape on this, you can tell that the center link does not protrude, so you will get a really nice fit on a smaller wrist. You don't have to worry about that 47mm lug to lug turning into a 50mm with huge protruding center links. You don't have to worry about that. As far as the clasp on the bracelet, you do have the Hamilton signature right there. It is a dual push button deployant clasp. I think I got that right. And you do have a proper milled clasp as well. This is not a cheap feeling pressed clasp. However, when we look at the micro adjustment, we only have one option there, or two positions there. Very minimal adjustment there, so you are going to be struggling to get a good fit. You're going to be likely too loose or too tight. And lastly, if this is at all important to you, this is a Swiss-made watch. I will admit I don't know the requirements for something to be labeled Swiss-made. I think I heard somebody once say that it's 60% needs to be manufactured in Switzerland. It's not like the very stringent made in the USA standard, but still, if you're trying to avoid certain locations, there you go. This is going to be a Swiss-made watch. Now let's talk about the finishing on this watch. As far as the metal, the majority of it is going to be a brushed finish, so it's going to be a little bit more subdued, although you do have a little splash, a little flash here with a high polish bezel, which really catches the light and the reflections and looks nice and dresses it up a little bit. We have a black dial with white printed numerals and text, all very standard. We have a 12-hour and a 24-hour marker around the inner ring. On the outside of the dial, we have 60-minute markers, and we also have a white date wheel, which in my opinion is a nice contrast to the black dial, and the white border around the date window makes a nice transition from that black dial to the white date wheel. It doesn't seem as jarring with that border around the date window. The dial also has some really nice texture to it. The center of the dial where the 24-hour markers are is going to be smooth, and it is a little bit elevated. Then when we look at the 12-hour markers, that is on something that kind of resembles a record. It has little grooves in it, and it is very fine detailed, and it's a really nice transition from that elevated smooth surface to the depressed, can we call it depressed? The lower record texture there. And then when we get to the outer ring, it is elevated again and it is smooth. That just gives a little bit of contrast and a little bit of interest to the dial. Then when we look at the handset, we have the hour and minutes hand, which have lume applied in the center. And I really enjoy the minutes hand on this with the nice extension towards the end of it. It is almost as though it is a needle, and it extends all the way to the outer border of the minutes tract. And that makes it really easy to set the time precisely and get right on the mark. The hour hand also extends all the way out to the edge of the hour marker, and the seconds hand has a beautiful red tip on it. Even though I hate red, because I'm colorblind, I hate red, but it works well on this and adds a little bit of a pop of color to it, and that extends all the way to the outer side of the dial. Just looks great. Then when we look at the specs and the features of this, the movement in it is a Hamilton H10 movement, which is a modified ETA C07111 movement. It is 25 joules. It has an 80-hour power reserve, a 21,600 beats per hour, and my specific watch was losing approximately 6 seconds a day over about a month. So not the best timekeeping, not the most accurate, but it's not terrible. Minus 6 seconds isn't bad. Then as far as the feature set on this watch, it is pretty straightforward. As I mentioned, it does not have a screw-down crown, so it is easy to just pull this out, and it does have a hacking seconds hand in case you want to get really precise with setting of the time. It also has a quick set date. You will just go to the first position, and you can go ahead and rotate it to set the date as well. And I think that is actually it in terms of the features. Very straightforward, very bare bones, just a basic watch. But now let's go ahead and check the lume on this thing. And here we are with the lights off. You can see that the numerals do have a bit of lume on them. It's not going to be the brightest, but the hours and the minutes hand does have a fair amount of lume, making it fairly easy to read in the dark, but definitely not going to be the most legible watch at night. Now let's get to the more subjective part of the review, my pros and cons. First up for pros, I love the 80-hour power reserve. There have been days where I take this off and set it on my dresser for a couple of days, and I pick it up expecting to have to reset the time, and I am shocked to still see the seconds hand ticking. I have absolutely adored having that long of a power reserve, and I wish every single one of my watches had that as well. Secondly, it is a very comfortable watch if you're able to get a good fit. In some cases, it will be a little bit loose, a little bit tight. I prefer to wear it a little bit loose, so it will slide up and down my arm, but given the quality of the bracelet, it doesn't ever pull the hairs on my arm. Another really big pro of this thing is the thickness of it, or the lack thereof. For an automatic watch at 11 millimeters, that is just great. Sits really well on the wrist. It does not seem bulky, doesn't seem funny at all. It just sits flawlessly on the wrist in terms of thickness. And the last pro is the biggest selling point, or one of the most important aspects of a field watch, the legibility. And they cram so much information on this watch, and it is all very legible, very easy to read. You got the 12, the 24-hour rings, and you have a 60-minute ring around the outside, and the date. I love all of it. Super easy to read, sits well on the wrist, and it's just a great feeling and great looking watch. Then in terms of cons, I may be a little bit spoiled because I normally wear a Zinn 556, but I would love to have a screw-down crown just for a little bit of added security. Also on the bracelet on the clasp, I don't like that there are only 2 micro-adjust positions. It does make it rather difficult to get a good fit, and most people will have to compromise on whether they wear it too loose or if they wear it too tight. And lastly, I don't like that there aren't any drilled lugs, especially for more of a tooly field watch like this. It would be nice to be able to more easily switch out the strap and the bracelet to get the right fit for the environment, I guess, that you're wearing it in. If you're going into the office, you may want a proper leather strap, which I think you could wear this into the office. If you're going swimming, you may want the bracelet on there. It just would be nice to have some drilled lugs on a tool-y kind of watch. Here it is back on the wrist. What is my conclusion? It is a relatively affordable, utilitarian, Swiss-made watch, and if you want a field watch that's a little dressier than a regular Khaki Mechanical or a little bit sportier than a Khaki Mechanical, then I would say this is the route to go. With that being said, would I recommend it? I'm sure you could guess absolutely I would. This was my first watch that came on a decent bracelet, and up until that time, I had not considered myself a bracelet kind of guy. This turned that around for me, and now I am a bracelet fanatic, and I just love wearing watches with bracelets. And why are the dogs outside so darn loud? That's maddening. Well, I don't think the dogs are going to stop, so we'll just keep going. I think that this is an outstanding everyday watch that looks a little bit tooly, but also has a little bit of flash with the addition of that polished bezel around the dial. I love the textured dial, gives a nice higher quality finishing vibe to it. Just an excellent all around everyday watch that I think you could wear into the office or while you're out and about in a less casual or a more casual environment. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Words are hard today. Okay, I think that's going to wrap up for today. I appreciate you all coming by and checking out the video. I would love to hear from you what you thought of this video. I still am learning, trying to improve on these. Did you like the macro shots? Did you think they sucked? What do you think I need to do to improve? Also, let me know in the comments down below if there are any watches that you're interested in. What watch are you wearing today? As I mentioned, normally I'm wearing the Zin 556A. This is my pretty much everyday watch. It's either this or this CW65 or the Christopher Ward C65 Trident GMT. Love it, but today we're talking hammy. We're going hammy. Okay. I love you all. Talk to you later. Bye.